If you open up, just a basic software program right now, and you draw a circle, it is mathematically flawless. Like the pixels align perfectly on your screen. But if you walk outside, pick up a stick, and try to draw that exact same circle in the sand at the beach, it's going to be lopsided.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right, the wind will blow some sand into the grooves, or the tide might wash half of it away, or you might hit a rock. The idea of the circle is perfect, but the actual execution is incredibly messy.
Which, I mean, that perfectly encapsulates the core problem of modern technology right now. You're taking this pristine, abstract mathematical concept and forcing it to survive in the physical world. And the physical world is inherently chaotic, unpredictable, and just full of friction.
Welcome to today's deep dive. It is March 16th, 2026, and we are so thrilled you are joining us. We have this absolutely fascinating stack of sources for you today. We are looking at a fresh batch of tech updates from ACM Tech News, and we're pairing that with some incredibly deep theoretical explorations across computer science, physics, biology, and math from Quantum Magazine.
It's just a phenomenal combination of sources because it really highlights this massive blind spot we have as a society. We often think of technology and math as this clean, logical progression, right? Like a straight line just pointing upward toward progress.
Yeah, a neat little chart.
Exactly. But what these sources show, time and time again, is the chaotic collision that happens when theoretical perfection meets, well, human behavior and physical constraints.
Okay, let's unpack this, because our first segment looks right at the heart of that collision. Think about how we usually talk about the AI boom. We talk about it like it's just software. It lives up there in the cloud. It's weightless, frictionless. It just exists everywhere at
Well,
once.
it's a magical cloud.
Exactly. But the ACM Tech News sources reveal that the AI revolution actually has an incredibly heavy, massive, and very messy physical footprint.
Yeah, that illusion of the frictionless digital economy is just completely shattering. Look at what the Wall Street Journal is calling the hottest job in tech right now. They're called forward deployed engineers, or FDEs. Job postings for this specific role on Indeed grew more than tenfold in 2025 compared to 2024.
Wait, tenfold? In 1 year?
In 1 year. And this isn't your stereotypical software engineering role, where you sit in a beanbag chair in Silicon Valley and push code to the cloud. FDEs are road warriors. They're traveling constantly, going on-site to client firms to physically customize and deploy these AI technologies.
Which completely shatters the whole plug-and-play myth of AI. Like if you're a business owner, you could just buy a cutting-edge large language model, plug it into your corporate network, and expect it to magically read all your PDFs and, streamline your business.
No, not at all. Because the AI expects perfect, clean data.
Right. And your business's data is incredibly messy.
Yeah.
Your legacy systems are probably archaic, and your employees don't know how to prompt the machine properly.
Exactly. The theoretical model simply fails when it hits the messy reality of the client's business. So the FDEs have to physically fly out there, sit in the office, untangle the local data structures, and basically force the AI to fit the reality of the situation.
It almost sounds like FDEs are the blue-collar plumbers of the AI revolution. We've designed this incredibly advanced theoretical water system, but we still need an actual human being to fly out to Cleveland and bang on the pipes to make the water flow without leaking everywhere.
Bang on the pipes, exactly. And if we look at the infrastructure side of things, the physical pipes themselves are hitting hard limits. I mean, the amount of electricity required to run the servers that train and operate these models is staggering. Code alone cannot solve a lack of physics and electricity.
Well, for sure.
Our sources note that Europe just activated its very first microgrid-connected data center near Dublin, Ireland. It's operated by Pure Data Center Group and AVK.
And the craziest part about this facility is that it runs independently from the national grid. Ireland actually had to put a moratorium on new data centers because the AI boom was drawing so much power, it was causing major bottlenecks for the entire country's electrical grid.
Right, so to keep building the infrastructure for the AI revolution, they literally had to go off-grid. This new facility runs on localized natural gas engines with the built-in potential to switch to biomethane or, and this is wild even, hydro-treated vegetable oil.
Vegetable oil. We are powering the absolute pinnacle of human computational achievement with vegetable oil because we've completely maxed out the electrical grid.
It perfectly illustrates the physical constraints of digital progress. We are hitting hard physical limits, infrastructure, energy generation, human capital that really dictate what AI can actually achieve in the real world.
Let's bring this down to a personal level for a second. Think about your own workday right now. If you feel like your entire day has just become reading AI-generated summaries of AI-generated emails, and you are actually getting less real work done than you were a year ago, well, you aren't crazy.
No, you're definitely not.
When these AI tools actually do get deployed, and the plumbers have banged on the pipes, the technology collides with human behavior. And that brings us to the productivity paradox.
Right, because the entire fundamental sales pitch of AI is efficiency. It generates text and code instantly, therefore it must save you time. But human behavior just doesn't work like that in practice. There's this massive analysis by a productivity tracking software company called ActiveTrack.
Yeah, the ActiveTrack study.
Right. They analyzed the digital activity of 164,000 workers. They monitored them for 180 days before they adopted AI tools and 180 days after. And the results. After adopting AI, the time workers spent on email, messaging, and chat apps more than doubled. Their use of business management tools increased by 94%.
So everyone is just communicating twice as much. But what happened to the actual work?
That's the catch. The actual amount of time these AI users devoted to focused, uninterrupted work fell by 9%.
Wow, so the AI generates a 5-paragraph email in, like 2 seconds. That's great for the sender. But now the recipient has to spend 3 minutes reading a 5-paragraph email that probably could have been a single sentence. We've automated the creation of noise.
Exactly, which means everyone else has to spend twice as much time managing that tidal wave of communication. And we are seeing this exact same automation of noise in the software development world, too. Axios reported on a new autonomous open-source AI agent called OpenClaw.
Oh, this one is rough.
Yeah, it is, because open source software maintainers are largely volunteers, right? They maintain the code libraries the rest of the world relies on. A human volunteer used to get maybe 2 to 3 bug reports a week. Now, with AI agents like OpenClaw just roaming the internet, these volunteers are being spammed with hundreds of automated bug reports simultaneously.
So the AI is automating the process of finding technical flaws, but it completely lacks the human context of what actually matters.
Right, it's just flooding the zone with useless alerts.
But creating extra work for office employees and open source volunteers is just the annoying side of the coin. The dangerous side is what happens to our data.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the McKinsey hack, because this completely redefines corporate espionage.
It really does. So the cybersecurity firm CodeWall ran a targeted operation against McKinsey's internal AI platform, which is called Lily. And CodeWall didn't use, traditional hacking methods. They used their own AI agent to attack McKinsey's AI agent.
Wow.
Yeah, and within just 2 hours, the attacking AI gained full read and write access to the Lily system.
In 2 hours. They exposed 46.5 million internal chat messages, thousands of user accounts, and AI assistants used across the entire consultancy. I mean, McKinsey patched it incredibly fast, but the damage was already done. Wait, so we built these massive, energy-hungry, time-saving tools, and the result is that we spend double the time slacking each other, spamming volunteers, and leaking tens of millions of private corporate messages. Like, how do we fix these security holes?
Well, the uncomfortable truth, according to the research in Quantum magazine, is that we can't.
Wait, what do you mean we can't?
A computer science study from December 2025 featured cryptographers who mathematically proved that large language model filters will always have security holes.
Wait, mathematically prove? You mean it isn't just a software bug that some engineer forgot to patch?
No, it is not a glitch. Complete safety in these models is mathematically impossible. To understand why, you really have to look at how language works. Language operates in a nearly infinite high-dimensional space. There are just endless combinations of words, contexts, and meanings.
Okay, that makes sense.
So a safety filter on an AI is essentially a mathematical fence trying to enclose certain bad behaviors. But because the space of human language is infinite, there will always be an unbroken, hidden path of words that can snake around that finite fence. You cannot build a perfectly secure AI system because you cannot put a finite mathematical boundary around infinite linguistic possibilities.
So the math theory perfectly predicts the real-world chaos of the McKinsey hack.
Exactly.
And that leads us directly into our next segment, because these inevitable, mathematically proven vulnerabilities are being actively weaponized on a global scale. Now, before we dive into this, we want to be very clear with you. We are impartially reporting the geopolitical, military, and political content straight from our sources today. We are not taking sides on any international conflicts, economic sanctions, or domestic European legislation.
Right, exactly. We are strictly looking objectively at how this technology is being utilized and regulated around the world.
Exactly. So how are these vulnerabilities being used?
in incredibly sophisticated ways. The U.S. Treasury Department recently imposed sanctions over an $800 million scheme orchestrated by North Korea. In 2024 alone, North Korean operatives used stolen identities and forged documents to pose as legitimate remote IT professionals.
That is wild.
It is. They exploited the massive shift toward remote work by getting hired at foreign companies, planting malware to steal sensitive corporate data, and funneling their wages back to Pyongyang to support nuclear and ballistic missile development programs.
It's basically an entire shadow economy operating through the cracks of our remote work infrastructure. And while they are exploiting hiring platforms, Russian government hackers are running global campaigns targeting users on everyday apps like Signal and WhatsApp. But here's the crazy part. They aren't using incredibly complex zero-day malware. They are using basic social engineering.
Yeah, why spend months writing complex malicious code to break down a digital door when you can just trick a human being into opening it for you? These hackers impersonate app support teams and trick government officials, military personnel, and journalists into sharing their verification kits or scanning malicious QR links.
Just normal phishing stuff.
Yeah, but highly targeted. And once the human falls for it, the attacker links their own device to the victim's account and just silently monitors everything.
And on the actual physical battlefield, the integration of AI is accelerating in real time. Ukraine is reportedly taking millions of drone videos and battlefield data points, attack footage, surveillance streams, and making them available to domestic and allied tech firms.
Right. They're using this massive trove of real-world video to train their primary battlefield computer system, known as Delta. By feeding the AI millions of examples of actual combat footage, the system learns to recognize specific targets automatically, which supports much faster machine-assisted decision-making right there in the field.
This is literal information warfare, and governments and tech giants everywhere are just scrambling to figure out how to put this algorithmic genie back in the bottle. Like, YouTube just launched a pilot tool where public figures like politicians and journalists can verify their identity with a video selfie and a government ID.
Right, which allows them to quickly report and pull down AI-generated deepfakes of themselves.
Though they are trying to allow exceptions for parody and satire.
Which is incredibly tough. Drawing an algorithmic line between a malicious deepfake designed to spread disinformation and a protected piece of political satire is, well, it's nearly impossible. AI doesn't understand humor or cultural context.
No, it doesn't. And Spain is taking a completely different, much more aggressive approach to this. The Spanish Prime Minister unveiled a government AI tool called HODO. It analyzes public data to constantly track and rank social media platforms based on the amount of hate speech circulating on them.
Yeah, and Spain's ultimate goal there is to make the algorithmic amplification of hate speech a legal offense, basically holding the platforms entirely accountable for what their code promotes.
But honestly, how can we possibly legislate something as complex as algorithmic amplification when even the computer scientists who build these algorithms admit they don't fully understand the internal mechanisms of how they make decisions?
They really don't. And that inability to truly understand our own digital algorithms is exactly what physical scientists have been running into for centuries when they try to model the actual physical world.
Oh, let's look at the physical sciences, straight from the quantum magazine sources. Because we are taught to think of physics and biology as these exact, precise sciences, right?
Yeah.
But they're dealing with the exact same messy reality as the AI engineers.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about humanoid robots. We've all seen those viral videos of incredibly expensive robots doing perfect backflips in a laboratory. But according to Quanta, those same robots are still fundamentally struggling with the small stuff, the nuanced, delicate physical interactions that a human toddler can do without even thinking.
Right. This is often referred to as Moravec's paradox.
Yeah.
A backflip looks really impressive, but mathematically it is relatively simple. It's a closed physics equation involving known gravity, known force, and the known weight of the robot's limbs.
Okay.
But asking a robot to reach into a sink and pick up a slippery, oddly shaped, wet coffee mug, that requires real-time physical adaptation to varied textures, unpredictable friction, and shifting weight distribution. The computations required to handle the messy friction of the physical world are overwhelmingly complex.
We see this struggle in climate science, too. Climate physicists have built the most incredibly advanced computer models in human history, running on massive supercomputers. But they admit that the single biggest factor making climate predictions difficult is clouds. They literally refer to clouds as the ghosts in their machines.
Yeah, clouds are an absolute nightmare to model mathematically. Because to predict a cloud, you are trying to calculate fluid dynamics on a massive planetary scale, while simultaneously accounting for the microscopic interactions of water droplets and localized temperature variations. The sheer scale of variable data just breaks the models.
And it's not just the sky, right? It's inside our own heads. Neuroscientists map the brain using something called a connectome, which is essentially a massive wiring diagram of how all our neurons connect to each other. But they're realizing their models are missing a massive piece of the puzzle.
Right. For decades, researchers thought these brain cells called astrocytes were just structural support cells, just the scaffolding holding the important neurons in place.
But new biological research reveals that astrocytes actively tune neuronal activity. They secrete chemicals that modulate how those neurons fire, directly impacting our mental and emotional states.
Exactly. Our current connectome models only map the wires, but they completely missed the chemical regulators that bathe those wires and change their conductivity. The map was fundamentally incomplete.
I feel like we are trying to paint a masterpiece with a roller brush. Our models, whether it's predicting climate patterns, mapping brain connectomes, or programming robotics, they're just too broad and rigid to capture the minute, messy details of reality. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Despite all this physical messiness,
Yeah.
our AI systems might actually be independently discovering a hidden order to everything.
This is fascinating. Quanta reported on a profound phenomenon in computer science right now known as convergence theory. Researchers are looking under the hood of distinct, separate AI models. Take a vision model that has only ever been trained on photographs and a language model that has only ever been trained on text. As these models grow more powerful and complex, researchers are noticing that they seem to be converging on a singular platonic way of encoding reality.
Wait, so an AI looking at a visual picture of a dog and an entirely separate AI reading the text word dog are starting to build the exact same internal mathematical architecture to represent dogness.
Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it presents a beautiful contradiction. The physical reality we experience is incredibly messy. Clouds are unpredictable, brain cells have hidden functions, robots can't grasp wet coffee mugs. But underneath all of that surface-level chaos, our artificial intelligence models might be independently discovering that the universe relies on a unified underlying mathematical structure.
That is profound, and we really have to talk about our last segment here. Before we put mathematics on a pedestal as this perfect, pure, untarnished truth, we need a reality check. We rely on fundamental math and physics to build all these AI models, but the history of how we actually discovered that math is surprisingly chaotic and deeply human.
Oh, very human. Science is a human endeavor, and humans are flawed. Consider the bell curve. The central limit theorem is the mathematical foundation of modern statistical science. The law of large numbers tells us that random events over time will organize into a predictable bell curve.
Right, and we rely on this for everything from medical trials to AI training.
Exactly. But according to Quanta, this bedrock of modern science literally started as a bar trick for 18th century gamblers trying to figure out the odds of throwing specific numbers on a pair of dice.
A pub game became the foundation of modern science. That is amazing. But even that is nothing compared to the infinity scandal. In 1874, the mathematician Georg Cantor proved that infinity actually comes in different sizes, that some infinities are mathematically larger than other infinities.
Right, which completely broke people's brains and permanently changed mathematics.
But Quanta reports that a trove of newly unearthed historical letters shows that Cantor, the undisputed father of the mathematics of infinity, plagiarized the concept.
Yep. The historical letters strongly indicate he took the core mathematical proofs regarding infinity from a contemporary and passed them off as his own breakthrough.
I am staggered by this. So the guy who gave humanity the foundational understanding of infinite mathematics basically copied his homework.
Pretty much. It forces us to fundamentally reshape the history of mathematics, but it also demonstrates how human knowledge evolves. The mathematical truth survives, regardless of the ethical flaws of the people discovering it. And we are still actively rewriting the rules of the universe today.
How so?
In frontier physics, when you zoom in on matter to a certain microscopic scale, the standard laws of physics break down and result in mathematical impossibilities. But a physicist named Astrid Eichhorn is a leader in an area called asymptotic safety. She proposes that if we push our math just a little further, we might find that space-time doesn't break. Instead, it becomes self-similar. Space-time itself might be made of fractals.
Fractals. So if you zoom in on the very fabric of reality, you just find infinitely repeating infinitely complex geometric patterns.
Exactly.
And yet, while we are pondering fractal spacetime and infinite mathematics, we still have to figure out how the physical world works on the most basic observable level. Like, I love this detail from the sources. Researchers at the University of Michigan just built tiny 20-milligram radio frequency tracking tags to track ordinary paper wasps.
Because a standard battery would be far too heavy for a wasp to carry, so they engineered the tag to be powered by a microscopic solar capacitor, and it can transmit signals up to 1.45 kilometers away.
Wow.
It is an astonishing feat of microengineering, and it's all deployed just so we can understand basic biological wasp behavior, social interactions in their hives, and local pollination patterns.
There is such a real poetry to that.
Yeah.
We use things as intensely granular and delicate as 20-milligram solar trackers glued to the backs of wasps, and we combine that with fundamental mathematics stolen by 19th century mathematicians to slowly, painstakingly build up our understanding of a universe where space-time itself might be an infinite fractal.
It really is beautiful when you put it that way.
So what does this all mean? We started this journey with forward-deployed engineers flying out to physically fix AI servers because corporate data is a mess. We saw how AI creates overwhelming productivity paradoxes, spams open-source volunteers, and gets hacked in 2 hours. We looked at international cyber warfare using fake remote workers and simple WhatsApp phishing tricks. We explored the mathematical mysteries of unmodelable clouds and hidden brain cells, all the way down to plagiarized math and fractal spacetime.
I think these sources leave us with a really provocative thought to mull over. We learned today that cryptographers have mathematically proved that AI systems will always have security holes. Because language is infinite, the systems can never be perfectly sealed. At the exact same time, frontier physics is suggesting that our physical reality might be made of infinitely complex fractals. If the universe we live in is fundamentally built on infinite complexity, and our mathematical models can never be perfectly sealed against that chaos, well, perhaps the goal isn't to build a perfect system to control reality. Perhaps the goal is simply to design systems that are resilient enough to survive in a beautifully chaotic universe.
I love that. We can't draw the perfect pixelated circle in the sand, so we have to learn to appreciate the beauty of the lopsided circle we actually have. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the reality around you, keep looking for the messiness, and we will catch you next time.